I'm Simon Jordan. You'll probably be familiar with me.
Take two.
Split.
Why don't you just go, I'm Simon Jordan? That'd be enough for him.
Yeah. I'm Simon Jordan. You'll probably be familiar with me interviewing people with strong views.
But it's about time someone had a word with him about his vacuous opinions.
That's why myself, Troy Deeney, and the legend that is Graeme and Troy have joined forces with Mr. Simon Jordan to create Free Upfront, brought to you by William Hill.
This is a new show that tells it like it really is.
And it reaches in to all corners of the game we truly love.
Wow, that little bit.
Oh, Graham, that was brilliant. That extra word you put in there.
Everything that matters to you is analysed through the eyes of a player.
A manager.
And an owner. As we tackle the biggest talking points in world football on Free Upfront.
So subscribe to the Upfront channel for new weekly episodes.
And don't forget to go back for some of my Upfront episodes. Not bad, if I do say so myself.
Hold on, mate. He can't be promoting his other show.
Oh, you very well can. This is the opportunity that you've been got on the back of it.
Why is it wherever I go, I get a squeaky seat? Same with Talk Sport.
Are you sure it's not your hips?
Listen.
It's your knees. It's probably your fucking wallet, more like. Welcome to Three Up Front. After Man United suffer their most humiliating defeat of the season, on today's episode, I think we should look at where this once great club is and what the expectation should be for the next season. When it comes to blame, Graeme, where do you think the blame lies for this club, this Man United, this 10-year cycle, but culminating, I suspect, in the 4-0 humiliation at the hands of Crystal Palace last night or the night before?
Where I would start with it, I think one of Fergie's greatest achievements when he was at Man United was to win the league that last year he did, the year he left.
2013.
That group of players. Mm-hmm. And I think when him and David Gill left, I think all the big football decisions, they've given a masterclass on how not to do it. I think they've got more or less all of them wrong. From recruitment, from people they should be selling. And I'm thinking one name springs to mind. I used to do a column in the Sunday Times. And I wrote 5 years ago, this has to be Martial's last chance saloon moment.
Oh, I agree.
And I think he's had a couple of contracts since then.
If you're looking at someone like Martial, let's use him as a case study. I would look back and go, who are the great strikers that we've had? Who are the fans think that this person needs to now emulate moving forward? He's had more than enough chances. Was it 9 years he's been there now? And he's never going to score you goals. Never going to do it right.
I can understand why he's still there, because every manager coming in would look at him in training and go, oh, if he can get that onto match day, then what a player I've got. But he's not capable of
done that.
So this current group of players that have been recruited by Ten Hag, this management structure, Ten Hag's 2 years into his job. Mm-hmm. The way that the media would represent it is that result last night is an absolute culmination of the humiliation of Man United. I would say they had half their side injured, and that ultimately you cannot just take that fixture as a defining point.
I think they're in trouble. Mm-hmm. He's in trouble more than most would be, because they spent Onana, was it 70 mil? Mm-hmm. Anthony, 80 mil. Martinez, 60 odd mil. Mm-hmm. You pull me up for saying this, but I think recruitment is the single biggest thing you have to get right at a football club. I'll give you an analogy. You got the best manager in the world with an average group of players. He doesn't win anything. Got great players with an average manager. You got a chance of winning stuff. Mm. Likely as you will win stuff. And that may oversimplify it, but I've been in a dressing room where it was just a follow-on from the group of players that had been there before, and there was a group before them, and we just followed on what they would do. So it was set in stone how you behaved and how you're expected to train and your timekeeping and everything else, your attitude to the game. The manager barely spoke to us. So I look back on my time as a Liverpool player. Yeah, they would pull us up for certain things, but they weren't on us all the time. It was very much, and I mean this is not me exaggerating the point. It was, today, guys, you're playing a team who are in the bottom three. We are top of the league. Mm-hmm. And this is a team talk. Unless you match them for effort, they could beat us today. But if you do match them for effort, you'll beat them. Yeah. And thinking about it, if you match any team in that away dressing room, you'll beat them, won't you? So it made you feel special. But I come back to, I think you've got to have top players. And another, Pep Guardiola had 3 jobs that I know of. Whatever league he's been in, he's had the best group of players in whatever league he's been in. He took over from Frank Rijkaard at Barcelona with a Messi of, was Messi 20 at 19, Iniesta, Xavi, Puyol. He took over, he got rid of
Henry,
Eto'o and Ronaldinho, which I think were was.
But if you're an average manager,
let me finish. Then he goes to Bayern Munich, and he takes over from
a
Jupp
treble-winning side.
No,
yeah.
four trophies.
Four
I believe.
trophies. Right.
Every trophy, including the European Cup. Then he comes to City, the richest and a team that was just needed the slightest bit of tweaking, and yet he obviously manages players very well. But for me, there's no genius there.
I hear what you say, but I have to disagree, because I think now it's about having managers who set in stone, this is what we do, this is how we are. And I think going back to Man United, we tweaked it over the 11-year period of 6 managers, and it's different every time, a different set of rules, a different set of standards. But the one thing they haven't done, which Arsenal have come through, and Liverpool now, they're looking forward. I still think Man United are going, remember what Fergie used to do? And we're still trying to recreate a time period that's gone.
All right, you're the manager.
Would.
Who would you keep?
I'd have a serious chat with Marcus. I think Marcus Rashford can be who you build a team around, but you need to get some bloody good pros around him and that hold him aligned and accountable. Because whenever Marcus is in the paper, he delivers and scores. Whenever Marcus is out of the team, he comes in and delivers and scores. I think he gets away with it because he is talented. And the group know he's talented and they let him get away with it. If you had some really good pros, some really good characters and leaders around there, he'd fall back into line very quickly.
I understand why you pick him.
Mm-hmm.
Because when he's on it, he's properly on it. But he's had 5 years in the first team. He's had 2 good seasons.
I can't disagree with you.
His first season, 13 goals and 50 appearances. Second season, 25 goals and 50 appearances. His third season, 5 goals and 30 appearances. Last year, 30 goals and 60 appearances. Mm-hmm. And then this year, 9 goals and 47 appearances. That doesn't describe a big player to me.
I think when you have people like him, he's mercurial talent that you have to go.
Is he?
I think so, yeah.
On what basis?
He has the ability to score every goal available. He can run past people.
He's got qualities that few have, but there's something not right with him.
Because I've always maintained, and I think you half agreed with this, but maybe for the purpose of this conversation, you might not.
If I disagree with you, I guarantee you.
But the characterisation, I think that Rashford's been built up and put on a plinth of being a world-class player, and then judged by those set of standards, never having been there. So it gets whittled down by a set of standards that he's not
I never put him in the world-class category. If we're not going to put Mohamed Salah in the world-class category, he's not even on the same planet.
Yeah, well, I think we both have got some flack for that.
But again, people have to listen, don't they? So it's their own problem. But the fundamental of it is if you're looking at that Man United team, age bracket, profile, who can actually, when they get to that level, still perform at that level.
I think he's done
that many.
I think the problem with Marcus Rashford now is I think that well has been polluted. Mm-hmm. I think that's done now.
You think he has to move on?
I think he has to move on as much for himself as potentially for Manchester United.
Yeah. Can I throw something into the mix? I've always felt this. I'm a player at Liverpool. The city of Liverpool is a very different city to Manchester. Manchester, livelier. Let's put it that way. If you're a footballer, livelier. In my time, we were never allowed to get too big for our boots. Mm-hmm. You would soon be brought back down to earth in Liverpool. And I always felt at Man United that wasn't the case. Man United are, as Bayern Munich are in Germany, they call them FC Hollywood.
Yeah.
And Man U are FC Hollywood here in the UK, England. And I think it's hard. We're talking about Marcus Rashford. I think maybe he's fallen into that trap. I think Garnacho will fall into that trap. And I just think at Manchester United, it must be very difficult for these young boys, going back to when I played, when the rewards were not the same. They were given so much adulation early on that some of them never really achieved
Agreed.
the kind of things they could have. But I just think the modern player today gets too much too soon.
But that's the
and
point,
if you're Man United, you're far better than you actually are. You get more money than you should get. Mm-hmm. You get more adulation than you should get.
But
I just think it's a dangerous combination.
I think on the flip side, I agree with everything you're saying. But if we go back to previous episode when we're talking about Liverpool and the structure, and the reason they haven't got over the final hurdle this season that we all think is because they don't have good senior pros. We look at United and where are your good senior pros? We throw people like Maguire in there. Very good guy, very good leader. Is he at the level that Man United expect or the fan base expects? No, because he's coming up against Rio, Roy Keane. These are the people that they're used to seeing. So I think when you start having to look at players and the players who they're bringing in, yes, it's Hollywood. But when you're in Hollywood, you need a main leader, a main protagonist. I don't know who that is yet. And I don't think any of us could sit there and say, that's the one that they've had for the last 5 years or that's the one for the next 5 years. That's where I think the big issue is for Man U moving forward.
you know, the real damning stat I looked up, they've had more shots on their goal than any other team in the Premier League.
And then they said a goalkeeper's not good enough.
Well, he isn't, though, is
He
he?
gets a lot of practice.
Let's have it right.
No,
He's not, is he?
I said I don't think he's a bad goalie at all.
Remember Rashford against Barkley at Luton a couple of weeks ago?
Yeah.
When he
He's
was
just walking around him.
pressing
Yeah.
on.
So speaking of players, you obviously made an early judgment on a player like Casemiro, if you called him Steady Eddie or Steady Away. Do you think you're vindicated in that? And what do you think
I
looking
actually
at the
think
rest of the squad?
I think I actually went too far with him. I think
Or not far enough.
I was too big a
Too
compliment.
generous,
I think,
yeah.
Listen,
A word of use in
I never
conjunction with
believed
you.
he was he was someone you pay money to watch
Mm-hmm.
play football. I thought he was someone who did a job in the team. Yeah, you can point to his medals that he's won, but he was a bit player in a very special team. And I never saw him as coming to United and being the difference with taking them from wherever they were to wherever they wanted to be. I saw him as, he's okay. He's not a big player, but I think they've had their trousers taken with both Varane and him. If you got something to offer, Real Madrid don't sell you.
Yeah.
They sold Varane and Casemiro to Man United. They paid a premium on the premium because it's the Premier League and it's Man United. And I'm sure they're on lots of money, those two. And it's a football decision that I feel they got wrong again. And that's my point about Man United.
When I look at Casemiro, I think obviously you had Modric and Kroos who were fantastic. But his job was to get it and give it to better players and break up play. And also the pitch wasn't too big for him because they dominated the ball. When I look at Man United now, and he must be looking around thinking, who do I give it to? Also, we're stretched because we keep getting transitioned on our transition. We give the ball away too much. But do you think it's fair to say that he's been stitched up a little bit as well?
Well, no, he's been found out, not stitched up. Listen, if you're a big player and you got a chance to go to Man United, in this scenario, in this case, you're going to take it.
Yeah.
Because I will make them better.
He's only 32 as well, isn't he?
I played my best football when I was 31.
But can you judge him? I mean, look, I know you made the observation about Steady Eddie, right? But wasn't to some extent, if you had players, I mean, you said, who does he give the ball to? Doesn't he give the ball to Fernandes or Eriksen? Aren't they the players that are creative? Because Danny Murphy said earlier on the season, the reasons why this Man United side, if they play Fernandes and they play Eriksen in the middle of the park, they're going to have a world of problems. People are just going to run through them, which goes to your statistic of having more shots on goal.
Yeah.
And I look at this group of players and I look at the idea, because the constant go-to setting from, say, like Gary Neville will say that everything's to do with the Glazers, right? And to some extent, I get that principle. Standard bearer. If you don't set the standard at the top, it won't reverberate to the bottom. And you're seeing some of that with what Jim Ratcliffe is potentially going to do. But again, I go back to the point about the managers and the players and where this is going to change. And I suppose it leads into the conversation about Ten Hag, because I've not had him from the get-go, because culturally this appears to have gotten worse. You can't legislate for Mason Greenwood, right? You can't legislate for that situation. But Sancho, going back to Rashford again, Rashford subsequently thinking that on the evening of Man City smashing United into the next life, I think I'll go out on the whiz in China Whites. And then 2 months later, I get a day off.
Island.
I'm out on the razzle
in
Belfast. This culture that United seem to have, which is they don't understand the gravitas of playing for Man United. That has to come from the dynamics of what the manager instills in them, doesn't it?
But also, when Marcus went off to Belfast, he was dropped, put him straight on at half-time and he scored. Because he gets rewarded for it.
Well, it can't be stick and carrot every single time, can it?
No, but my point is, don't make a stand. That's not acceptable. You're not even in the squad. The only way you can change players is by taking away what they want to do, which is one of two things: playing and time. So you're in your double sessions or that, because it's not about money anymore.
Does that hurt anymore?
Those two things, I promise you, still hurt. Taking away time.
The players still want to play every weekend.
Absolutely, of course they do. They prefer to play than train. Everyone's got a massive ego.
When I played, there was a fear of if you missed a game through injury or suspended, you weren't going to get straight back in.
Absolutely,
that's the captain of the team, and the captain of Scotland felt like that.
But that's the point. That's the point I'm trying to make, though, Graeme, because he goes out in Belfast. It's a big thing about it. We drop him, but we're losing, so we put him straight back in. Then he goes and scores, and he goes, "Well, what's the problem then? Because I've been. You slapped me on the wrist. Now I've got to save the day. Now you need me again next week, don't you?"
So Man United want to buy you. Mm-hmm. Say you're from Timbuktu.
Yeah.
So you go on the internet and you Google this football club. You get it there. It's a very, very special, unique football club.
And
So
when
do
you
you need
first
to walk
walk
into
in,
the place and do you need a manager to point out you've arrived somewhere very
no,
special?
but when you first walk in, that would happen. But what you would see and hear and look, and I hear these things firsthand, is that it's not what it once was. So all this big, like anything, you want to go to Disneyland, you get to Disneyland, you go, oh, is that it? And that kicks in very, very quickly. Oh, is that it? Because I thought we'd be held to a higher standard, but we're not. So that's where when you bring in somebody now, whoever you bring in from management has to be like, bang, this is what we're doing. You're bringing in the directors of football so the recruitment can all be the same. I think if we look at it from as a right on top of it, magnifying glass,
Is there a
we can't tell
danger?
who it is.
Danger with United? There's a lot of fixation on United, and I often say,
That's the price on the ticket.
well, it's the price on the ticket, sure, right? But everything is cyclical. The price on the ticket for Liverpool was dominance in the 70s, dominance in the 80s. Then they brought a manager in the 90s, and it all started to go wrong there. And from that point on, Liverpool don't win anything of any significance for quite a
30
few
years to win the league.
right, to win the Premier League, right? So it's this over-examination, this paralysis by analysis of United, setting them up as the poster boys.
But I think they've not just disappointed; it's to the level of disappointed. I think that's why we're talking about it so much and getting so much interest in their present predicament. I mean, they have dropped so far off the top teams. It's scary. I was driving here knowing we were going to talk about it, and at 3 hours in the car, I'm thinking, where would you start at Man United? Will Jim Ratcliffe think I've made a mistake here and taken us on? Because Jim Ratcliffe, I think, is a year older than me. I think he's 72 now. This ain't a quick fix. I had a meeting with him. It's not a secret. I had a meeting when he asked to see me about buying a football club. And this was a few years. I think he was 67 or 66 at the time. And he says, and I can remember him vividly saying, I haven't got time to buy a club and develop it. Because he was talking about Fulham, and he had a season to get at Chelsea. And I said, well, maybe Chelsea, maybe buy that. And he did say, well, Fulham's it's a project, isn't it? It's not going to happen overnight. He said, I don't have that amount of time.
I think if you're Jim Ratcliffe and what you've achieved in your life, and being somebody that takes on challenges, that this is a challenge. And I think one of the greatest things of being an entrepreneur and an innovator is you take on challenges. Not like football people that fold underneath them.
Yeah,
you take them on, and then you and don't use other things as excuses.
But is it a challenge?
Change the culture.
Of course it's a challenge because they're not Man United of 15 years ago.
But they'll still be Man United.
But it's Man United now, would he think they're in a far worse situation than he first thought?
But I think it's great. When do you want to buy a football club? Or when do you want to be involved in a football club? And when does it bounce? When it hits the bottom, right? I think people are beginning to perceive that Man United might have hit the bottom. But, they could go back to 1974, whenever it was they get relegated. But I don't think that's going to happen, right? So we're now talking about United being absolutely lambasted from dawn till dusk. They've got no characters in the team, no leadership, no structure, no strategic thinking. And ultimately,
full houses every week.
And full houses every week. That's the wonderfulness of football. Sometimes you serve up crap and get people to come back and watch it and pay for it. No other industry would give you that. But I think it's the best time for him because now it's a proven. We need to clean house here now. There's no mucking about. People will laugh.
So you're talking about a normal business. Football is not like
no,
that.
I know that, but you learn the language,
like
Graeme. No, Graeme, every industry, whether it's, I've been in lots of them, films, manufacturing, property, retail, restaurants, right? You learn the language of the industry that you're in, and then you get people that can deploy that language and deploy their skill sets to get the outcome. So the common denominator in every business is human beings, right? Getting human beings to do their job, right? And yes, the parameters of football are different. Yes, the fact that the cost implications, it's public domain, you have to listen to people screaming the name of a 17-year-old kid like a hero status. Those are all the industry specifics. But if you apply good standards and good disciplines, then you tend to employ people that do the same thing. So Ratcliffe bowling around now, people saying, well, what's he doing about the standards and worrying about how filthy the stadium is and how filthy the dressing rooms are? Because that shit of culture starts there.
Absolutely.
And then he moves up to, I'm not having you working at home, in the office. And people go, well, I'm not sure about that. But it lets people know there's a new sheriff in town, there's diligence, and there's going to be accountability. And people aren't going to wriggle away from it. They're not going to get out from underneath and have excuses.
I hear all that. And
I think that's a good thing.
It's a great thing.
And I think it will then transcend into who he puts in the dugout.
Football is different. And I come back to it. Time isn't his friend with us. Time is not your friend in football. How long will it take for them to get it right?
Well, if you base it off what Liverpool and Arsenal did, 4 years, maybe 5.
That's 10 transfer windows.
Yeah. And have a manager that you instill, you trust, and you believe in. They haven't had
You
that
agree
part
with
yet.
that?
I look at this now and say with Jim Ratcliffe that I don't think if you're focused on the basic principles of what you're trying to achieve. I mean, recruitment isn't that difficult if you think about it properly. If you think about it with strategy. Well,
I'm interested in this.
one of the things that you've got to factor into Manchester United is the weight of the shirts. And like Wilfried Zaha, some might say the passing act of Alex Ferguson was to abdicate responsibility by buying Wilfried Zaha, who wasn't a player that was ready to go to Manchester United at that stage because the scale of going from Crystal Palace to Man United didn't work for him. But notwithstanding that, he wasn't ready to go to Manchester United at that stage and going there in a state of flux. So I just think, like, if you have a good manager and you have good people in positions...
I'm sorry, talking bollocks. Let me explain why. You're saying you do due diligence on Wilfried. The one thing you can never make a judgment call on and be accurate when you're at a big football club.
Yeah.
What you try to do is eliminate all the risk elements attached to this player.
But that's not bollocks, is it? That's due diligence.
There's the one thing you can say, well, he's a right age. He's not had a lot of injuries. He can play and perform in the Premier League. The one thing can he live with the pressure of being a Man United player where every single time we got to play the opposition, it's their cup final. And that is something, when you're at a big club and you buy a player, it's not something you can really be accurate about. You don't know until you get them in how they will deal with the pressure of playing for a big football club. And there is an enormous difference. Trust me, an enormous difference.
But personalities determine outcomes, don't they? I'm not suggesting the guy should be sitting at a desk doing a frigging psychometric test. I'm suggesting that you should be sat there looking at the personality.
That's one you can't make a call on, Sam.
But there is an element. If I employed... I had a finance director. I know you're going to go, well, it's got to do with fucking football, right? But
hold on, you're allowed to swear.
I had a business.
You just told him you said talks bollocks.
I believe bollocks is probably a colloquialism.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, F is a proper swear. Right? But Graeme brings the best out of people.
If I said to you, please take it as like a term of endearment.
Yeah, no
it's like, that means we're mates.
Yeah.
But I can say it to Simon.
Absolutely.
Because we're mates.
Yeah, absolutely.
And make no mistake, there's some return fire coming very shortly.
My point is when I employed a finance director who had been responsible for managing a £10 million business into a £150 million business, I had to price in the reality of the expectations I had of him, knowing the pressure that was coming towards him and knowing the likelihood of the environment he was going to come in. And so I would be very, very focused in trying to get into the skin and underneath the bones of somebody. And I know what you're saying, which is unless you put somebody in a penalty shootout in a live stadium, you can't replicate that on a training ground. But you can go some way.
Yeah, we've all done it.
You can go some way to getting
it was only the European Cup final, but that's enough about me.
Okay. But no, can never be enough about you, Graeme, as far as you're concerned. Never be enough about you. I love the way you two do this. Never include me. I don't want to be in your shitty little football knowledge gang, right? I'm quite happy being on the outside looking in at you two clowns. But are we in agreement for different reasons or the same reasons that we can't see?
Can I ask you
make
a question?
Case for Ten Hag?
No, definitely not.
No.
I think they made their minds a long time ago.
This is still the manager that they're bringing in is the guy who left at the start of the season with 1 day to go, right?
Yeah.
If I'm one of those lads, if I'm Mikel Antonio or the like, I'm going, why should I believe you? You left your own team last year.
If you're a season ticket holder at West Ham, you buy your season ticket, you want to see them with the ball, you want to see them on the front foot, you want to be entertained. This year, there's only Everton and Sheffield United with less possession of the ball than West Ham United. That's not been a good watch for most of your games.
So at this moment in time, we're not finding anything particularly good about Man United. We don't think they've got a character or culture or a group of leaders. So whoever gets this job has got a poison chalice and a lot of challenges to turn it over.
And
have we made our minds up?
And there'll be a queue round the block for it.
Yeah.
Always is.
And there'll be a huge upside if you get it right.
But are we in agreement for different reasons or the same reasons that we can't see?
Can I ask you
make
a question?
Case for Ten Hag?
No, definitely not.
No.
I think they made their minds a long time ago.
Do you think, one final question is, do you think it's more important about who they get in from a playing side or as opposed to who they get out, or the other way around?
Both.
Well, they're in a catch-22, aren't they? They pay big wages. Who's increased their asset value in their time as a player at Man United? Can't think of one.
Garnacho. Maybe.
Question mark still
May not.
about him.
Maybe. Yeah.
Big question mark against him. He's not ready.
But Man United don't tend to build their model on buying and selling players, do they? They buy players to be able to achieve success on the field.
They've got to get some out the door. That
Of
will
course.
not be easy.
Of course.
Will not be easy.
And they'll take a view. And I think what he'll do is he'll take a view, and few people will get paid up, few people will get bounced out, and there'll be some bloodletting. And I think that's a good thing. But Erik Ten Hag won't be the person to sit there and do it, because I don't think he's got the ability to do it. And you and I have never felt that for 2 years. Let's pivot into someone I think you and I know quite well and like very much, which is David Moyes and West Ham. It's
one of the good guys.
It's been confirmed. Yeah, I think so. That David's leaving West Ham, and Julen Lopetegui is coming in. I'm not sure what to make of that. I have mixed emotions about it. I think football fans are entitled to watch what they want to watch and have their observation on it, because you're asking for emotion. But it seems to me that there's a lot of background noise about David Moyes and the style of play at West Ham, which has culminated in someone apparently having a contract in February being offered to him by West Ham to someone that's now surplus requirements, and off he goes and someone else comes in. I don't know whether that's right. I'm not a West Ham fan, so it's not my gift, I suppose.
Before you get into that, could I just join that? Sorry. I got bashed, I think on your show actually, for saying, be careful what you wish for. And I think this is the perfect example of that. This is still the manager that they're bringing in is the guy who left at the start of the season with 1 day to go, right? Yeah. And said to Wolves, not for me. Now, we could all have our opinion on that. How do you say to the group of lads, I'm in with you? I'm in with you. We're all in. We're going to have a great pre-season. Next year, it's going to be better. If I'm one of those lads, if I'm Mikel Antonio or the like, I'm going, why should I believe you? You left your own team last year. So I don't think this is a great appointment.
You would think that?
Absolutely. Yeah. Because you've quit. You quit on the team. Whether some things haven't gone right or whatever, I just think that in the back of your head, you're going, oh,
the first thought of a player is that not, I hope he fancies me. I'm going to do my best to impress him.
I would agree with that. But my point is, when it comes straight, as soon as I heard his name, I went, is that the guy who quit Wolves?
So if Marco Silva went to Everton and tried to sign you for Everton, you wouldn't have gone?
No, quit.
You wouldn't have gone?
No, quit.
Also,
he didn't like me, which helped.
I
get what you mean. But if I'm in the group, Graeme, and I'm let's say I'm captain at West Ham, or I'm Mikel Antonio, I've been there a long time. I say, listen, boss. Obviously, it's all nuanced with the way that you say things, right? And I go, listen, boss. I know you've just come in. Me and a few of the lads think this. Don't know if you want to address it or you want to tell me, and I tell them, but we thought that you just left them lads at Wolves. And that's left a bit of a dodgy taste because the boys have asked. You've got to now answer that question. Not because you owe us anything. It's just, it's the elephant in the room. Deal with it.
I think that's surmountable. I think they can get around that one.
Yeah.
Or over that one. David Moyes done a fabulous job there, but I think he's undoing is his brand of football. And I've said this to you before and somewhere else that, you don't get a job at a football club because it's going well as a manager. Generally, it's in trouble. So he's got that job. He's certainly improved them. You've inherited that group, and from day one, your priority is to get the best out of that group, playing a system that will suit those players. It might not be what you want to do, but it's just to get us through to that transfer window, the next one, and then you get a few players in to play your way. So I would suggest, I would put this argument forward for the people who are critical of the board and critical of the supporters who are critical of David Moyes, that this year there's only Everton and Sheffield United had less possession of the ball than West Ham United. So that tells you he's playing a certain way. Now, this is where my criticism comes, is that he's choosing to play this counter-attacking football because he must have had 6 transfer windows, maybe 7, 8, I don't know. So he's still choosing to play that way, although he's had an opportunity 6 or 7 times to get players to play a different way. And if you're a season ticket holder at West Ham, you buy your season ticket, not cheap today for most people. You want to see them with the ball. You want to see them on the front foot. You want to see them win games. You want to be entertained. If you're watching a team that's constantly on the back foot, and that stat is a pretty damning one, that only Sheffield United and Everton have had more possession than West Ham this year. That's not been a good watch for most of your games.
Do you think he should have changed? And you must be making a case, because David bought different players. He bought Kudos, he bought Paqueta, he bought players that could get on the ball, get their head up and do something more offensive-minded rather than just waiting for the opposition and reactive to the opposition. So you must think that David's made a mistake then. Or Or is he in your camp of never changing his philosophies and knowing what his strengths are?
I mean, you can buy players who want to go that way, but you can put the reins on them, can't you? You can restrict them.
Right.
And I would suggest, there's some good players there that would.
No, we're agreeing there.
That would.
What's the point of buying a player of that ilk if you're not going to utilise them? That's their strength.
That stat, I think, is a pretty damning one. When you think how miserable Sheffield United have been and Everton have been for most of the season,
but
except
bottom of
last
the league.
month.
West Ham are 10th, 9th,
I know,
8th,
but
in the quarterfinals of a European competition. Which is it?
It's the brand of football. That's what it has to be. West Ham, obviously, the owners, the supporters, think they should be far better, far further down the road than they actually are. West Ham have an enormous catchment area. West Ham could be a big football club. West Ham is a big football club, but it could be a lot bigger. And I just think it's down to supporters voicing their opinion, who you have to listen to, and I think the board have. And that's why they're making a change.
So then you must think that David Moyes is the architect of his own potential downfall.
Yeah.
Even though he was offered a contract in February, which he didn't sign himself. So he must have had reservations himself, mustn't he?
Yeah. I think as well, we touched on it with Man United. So you've got Kurt Zuma, nice guy. Can you build up from the back with Kurt Zuma?
Definitely not.
Can you play into midfield with
that was David Moyes' choice.
But I think as well you fall
these
into
are functional players, Troy.
Exactly, but I feel you fall into
functional.
Yeah, you fall into a category after when you take over and inherit shit, which they did. You have to figure it out, but then you start becoming successful.
He bought Zuma, didn't he?
Yeah, but I'm saying, but then they become successful
Chelsea.
with that. They become successful in that
was a
thing.
cat, wasn't it?
So,
Yeah, but playing.
Just saying.
But the point what I'm
playing
saying
a
is,
certain way, which
but
the public are not finding attractive.
But you've been successful with that. So why now, as a manager, would you pivot?
All right, success.
Well, they won in Europe.
They won a
That's
European.
successful. They keep finishing the top 10. That's successful.
But I think that as well is not enough for the supporter. I think the brand of football.
Well, do you think that's fair then?
Yeah, I don't think.
Do I think it's fair?
Yeah. Do you think it's fair?
Well, I see football differently to him.
Right. In what way?
And I understand. If I'd been playing football, I wouldn't be feeling hard done to.
No.
If I'm David Moyes, listen, it's my choice to go that way.
Yeah.
I think that's the way that this group of players and the players have been back, and ultimately the way he wants to play, that's how I want to play. Those stats are quite damning. There's no getting away from that.
I agree with that. The one thing that every fan will always be able to do is change their mind. So if this starts off really poorly next year, that fan base will turn quick and be asking for a player.
I think it's just the expectation level of the supporter, the board. They would tell you we've spent good money now, not big money, but good money.
Yeah.
And we're no further forward than what we were when he walked in the door, where we don't have a lot of the ball. We don't pepper the opposition's goal with shots.
I don't think they have the players to do that.
Do you think David Moyes gets another job?
Yeah.
In the Premier League?
If he wants it, yeah. Answer that. If he wants it.
I don't think it's a big one.
No, I don't think he'll get a bigger one, but I think he'll get a lot of similar ilks.
He won't get a bigger one than West Ham because he's now perceived as someone who plays a certain way. But that, again, I come back to a team that's dicing with relegation would take him 7 days a week because playing that way, you got a better chance of surviving because it would suggest if you're down near the bottom, you haven't got a great group of players, with all due respect, and you play that way and you got a better chance of surviving than if you get a manager in who wants to play front foot football and try and win games 5-4, then David Moyes is your man.
Roll around as a final part of this show, roll around to the end of next season.
Yeah.
Imagine Julen Lopetegui stuck around.
Yeah.
And Erik Ten Hag has been given his walking papers. Which set of fans do you anticipate are going to be happy at the end of next season?
I would say
these are
here's a question.
Answers.
Here's a better question, which you would expect from me than you.
Was it about you?
Yeah, no. If you're a manager, and you're offered a job at West Ham or Man United, what would you take right now?
Man United.
That's a stupid question.
For North.
Because?
Because the club and I think it's easier to...
Who's got the better group of players?
Still Man United, in my opinion.
Well, tell you what, if you took all those West Ham players out and stuck them in Man United colours and stuck them at Old Trafford on decoration, they might not be the same sort of players.
Exactly, that's the question.
So it's a stupid question, because everyone in their right mind would say Man United.
That was a better question than yours. What was your daft one again?
My question was, at the end of next season, if you've got Lopetegui coming in and you've got Ten Hag going out, let me do it for you slow again.
Can I answer the question?
Let me do it for all those on Saga holidays.
This reminds me of a story. This reminds me of a story.
Who's likely to be more happy?
David Moyes went in to see our manager, Bob
Super
Paisley.
sub. You remember David Fairclough?
He said,
before
"Boss,"
your
A
time.
little bit before
he said,
my
"Boss,"
time,
he
unfortunately.
was sub a long time. He said, "Boss, will I be playing a lot of games this year?" He says, "I don't fucking know. I haven't got a crystal ball." So that's your sort of question. I've got a crystal ball.
Well,
It's a stupid
It's
question.
called ruminating.
Yeah.
It's called speculating.
So I would
You
say-
speculated on the fact that you thought Casemiro was going to be a steady Eddie and you got lucky.
Was I lucky
Right.
with Pogba as well?
You
then?
weren't lucky this time last season because Casemiro was doing all right for them.
No, he wasn't.
So
Well,
if you say enough things enough times, eventually one of them will be right.
Non-football people like yourself
You can
would
keep throwing
point
that as much as you
would
want.
point to Casemiro as having a good season because you know why? He scored a couple of goals with his head. I admit he's
Very
bigger
good.
dangerous set pieces.
Yeah, very good.
Well,
set
no,
pieces.
because he was part of a side that finished third in the league, won the League Cup, and looked like they were going in the right direction next year. So shut up.
Next year.
This season they've gone wrong.
No, it was for me. No,
So what I would say to answer your question,
Yeah,
I would say,
thank you.
I didn't know I had to be the grown up in the room. What I would say to answer your question
that
would be
ain't difficult.
That's a low bar.
would be Man United fans, because I think that they're going to have, no matter what happens next year, they're going to have a clearer identity of what the new regime looks like under Sir Jim. That's what I would
and it's
say.
going to replicate itself on the pitch.
You would like to think so.
So my argument about Man United being a fix over a quicker period of time than the protracted period of time he suggests is plausible.
I suggest
It's
time.
plausible. It's
Sorry, I
plausible.
never put a number on it.
I did.
Our colleague
that's
did.
easy.
I did.
Our colleague
Oh, you
did.
did.
Yeah, I
you?
put the time on
Okay.
it. Yeah. But I think they'll be
Right.
able to see where they're at.
So who do you think is going to be more happy?
Because you have to factor in expectation level. It might be West Ham for me. Because it's about expectation level. If West Ham next year, for argument's sake, were playing a different brand of football, had the same points, or if David Moyes would say, "Look, I'm going to play differently next year and end up with the same points," that might have saved his job. I think it's all to do with the style of football. Because it's not about the results, is it?
Yeah, I
It's
agree.
about
But
the
if
style
they
of
have the
football.
better style of football, what the fans want to see, and they are 15th, are they going to be happy or not happy?
That's the
I would
same
probably
style
say-
of football, the same points.
I think the question's previous because I think the only way you'll find it out is when you see United what they do in the summer. When all the dust settles and they've been obliterated in the FA Cup final and Erik Ten Hag has been sent packing, if that's the general consensus of opinion, then we see who they wheel in the door. Then we see if the sentiments that we believe that needs to happen, which is gone, change up, better characters comes into play, then we'll only know.
How many new players can you bring in at one time?
They could bring in 10, but I think they're going to go more 6.
I got a job at Torino. Lasted 6 games. Turned up first day of work. The president says, "You'll be happy with me. I've got some new players for you." I said, "Oh, great. How many?" 18.
Wow.
18 new players. I didn't know the names when I left. This has been 3 Up Front, brought to you by William Hill.
Subscribe to the channel for weekly episodes.
And don't forget to go back for some of my upfront episodes. Not bad if I do say so myself.
18 plus, please gamble responsibly.